we seeing this Chelsea team, after a rather inconsistent start, now showing their potential with the new signings settling in, particularly in defence?
Yeah, well, we're talking about work in progress, that everybody is a work in progress, but maybe Chelsea is the biggest work in progress in this Premier League because of the potential of the signings and the impact that they can have, and the number of signings as well, because a lot of players coming in, but a lot of players having a real impact. I was very impressed. I covered the Chelsea-Sheffield United match, and I was honestly really, really impressed with Ziyech. And the accuracy of his balls and the cleverness of his movements and the long balls, he's different. He brings something special to the team. And can I be excited about Thiago Silva? Because I'm very excited about Thiago Silva.
As a neutral.
Yeah.
As a neutral.
Yes. No.
Yeah. Talk us about the Brazilian.
Yes. No. Just considering that I'm a Brazilian, I'm very excited about him. No, because Brazilians are very suspicious about Thiago Silva, which is something I can't get over.
Why?
Because of the World Cup. There are a few players that they look and they relate to 2014.
Yeah.
And Thiago Silva is one of those players. And I can't say how
Rafa's laughing from the other side.
What happened in 2014?
Oh, yeah. Who invited Rafa again? So I can't say enough of how people can be so wrong about a player as Thiago Silva. He's a great professional. He has this leadership that he already established in Chelsea. He's been captain a few times and he just arrived. And I spoke to Lampard after the match and he was just melting over Thiago Silva, and he has every right to be, because he had such a huge impact in the way that his positioning and his leadership, and he doesn't even speak English so well, but he already has this big impact, and he's so concerned about his physicality. He's 36 years old, and he just arrived at the Premier League. So of course the language thing is also a factor, because he can communicate in French with the goalkeeper, with Mendy and with Zuma as well. So I'm pretty sure that helps, but he has such a huge impact in terms of how clever he is in the game and how professional he is in his daily basis and in his entire career.
Yeah, talking about leaders as well, obviously there's the language barrier there. Højbjerg at Spurs is fine, he can talk to all of them. But Thiago Silva, just as a presence in the dressing room, I can imagine all the Chelsea players, because none of them are like especially senior, are they, in Chelsea? It's not like Lampard and Drogba and Terry are still there. So I can imagine all those players just looking at him, getting changed, going, I need to, I need a bit more of that. I hope I'm looking like that when I'm 36 years old and leading by example.
Apart from Giroud.
Well, yeah. But Giroud's in good nick himself, to be fair. He's probably a good leader in the race. But I think just the way he carries himself and the experience, and it's just a vibe, isn't it, with players like that?
Absolutely, especially Chelsea, because not only do they have a really young team, but they also have a really young and relatively inexperienced manager. I mean, this is Frank Lampard's third season in professional football as a coach. It's his second season in the Premier League. And you can see at times that he's still learning to understand what the best formations are, what the best choices are. Good managers to have a habit of making fewer mistakes and getting difficult decisions right. Maybe they can't even explain it necessarily why they think this player is today better suited than the other player. But you could see in the early stages that Lampard was trying a lot of different things and experimenting and not always being successful. But now I think he's beginning to understand his team better, vice versa. And to have somebody who probably doesn't need a lot of coaching, let's be honest, in Thiago Silva at the back, I think really helps the cause.
They played against each other. There's the famous picture of a handshake in 2013. And Lampard always, he mentioned how much he followed Thiago's career. It's funny that he plays under Lampard now, and they were both captains, that must strike something to Lampard.
Well, that's part of a defence that's conceded one goal in the last 6 games in all competitions, and they are gelling together. Chilwell, Mendy, Mendy, and then Thiago Silva, as you mentioned. But up top, of course, you've got the attackers. You've already touched upon Ziyech, who I think is one of those kind of players who gets you off your seats, and he looks like he was thoroughly enjoying himself last time around against West Brom. But what about the 2 Germans that have come on board? Havertz, who obviously had to sit out because of COVID, but Timo Werner, I mean, what do you think about him in terms of the way he's been played so far, either down the middle, but predominantly out wide?
And please be as neutral as I am. Okay?
Of course, totally neutral. I mean, look, Werner is doing exactly what he was promising to do, which is to score goals, play on the shoulder of the last defender, be very versatile. When I spoke to Werner, and he said, one of the things that actually attracted me to Chelsea is that Lampard said to me, I don't see you in a certain position. I see you in different positions. I see you sometimes on the left, sometimes behind the striker, sometimes maybe in a 4-4-2, sometimes you play up top by yourself.
Yeah.
And Werner actually, which is perhaps slightly ironic because usually a lot of players want to have a special position, he actually enjoyed the fact that Lampard said to them, I don't have a fixed position for you. There will be a lot of changing, variability, freedom for you also to take up different positions. And it's no surprise that a guy who scores as many goals for Leipzig last year would be in a similar trajectory, you know, to get into the mid-20s, maybe 30s this year, in a team that plays attacking football, that has huge quality around him. The pace that he has is frightening, especially now, I think, when you see a lot of teams being stretched, perhaps slightly more than usual, because of maybe a bit more tiredness. No surprise. Havertz, I think, was always going to be a slightly more gradual story because his age, he's 4 years younger, his position is not as clearly as defined, and I think with him it's the other way around. I think he would benefit perhaps from having slightly more direction and a bit more input from the coaching side. But the talent is there, and I think Chelsea didn't necessarily buy him to be the best player in the Premier League this year, but they bought him because they understood he will be one of the best players in Europe in the next 3 or 4 years. And I think we'll see that player emerging as the season progresses. So I think they are perfectly sort of on track to do what Chelsea were hoping they would do for them.
Yeah. Can he fit all those attacking players in the same 11?
No, but it doesn't matter.
No. But there's options on the bench then, yeah?
Because you see how much you need to rotate. You see how much injuries, COVID, fixture congestion, all these things make it not just necessary, but absolutely vital to be in a position to rotate. So for him, I don't think Lampard sees it as a problem. I think it's fast we see, he doesn't know his best 11. It's never going to be a best 11. It's going to be a best 13 or 14,
right.
And that's going to be the story for Chelsea and all the bigger sides this year.
And Frank has clearly been backed by the Chelsea board, Sam, not only in terms of the budget and the amount of players he's brought in on pretty decent transfer fees, but also with his treatment of Kepa, and that he's no longer does that up the stakes in terms of what he has to achieve? Is it minimum top 4?
Yeah, I think so. I read an article earlier in the season. Lampard has been around Chelsea for a long time, long enough to know that if a manager gets backed to that level and doesn't deliver, it doesn't last very long. With Lampard, obviously, with his background at Chelsea, he will get time, of course, if it wasn't to go right, midway through a season. But yeah, after this kind of backing, all things considered, you would expect top 4. And yeah, you never know with Chelsea, because it looked like for a while, the money, they were scaling back a bit. They were making a different profile of signings, and all of a sudden this summer they're back. But you would think, with that investment, they would be expecting something from it. And as much as anything, thinking from like the owner's point of view, you've got a fantastic squad of players there now. And if, for whatever example, they weren't to deliver on that, they would probably make that a difficult decision. But that's not a road I want to go too far down. Just looking at that table at the moment, you see Chelsea where they are, and everyone's talking about Villa and Leicester, and what's going on with City, how Liverpool cope. If this was a horse race, I'd be looking at Chelsea and go, they're in the middle of the pack here, but I think they're quite well placed. And if it's not Liverpool or City at the end of the season, I think it could be Chelsea.
They'll be there to take advantage.
I think so, yeah.
And I don't think top 4 in itself will be enough. I think it'll have to be top 4 plus something else. And that could be a deep run in the Champions League, it could be winning a cup, or it could be getting so close to who eventually win the league title that there's a realistic possibility that we can overtake them the year after. I think you have to get them much closer, because last year, what were they behind? 25 points or 30?
Yeah, you're right. It shouldn't just be top 4, should it? Because that's not what Chelsea are.
Correct.
And if they did accept that, it would be an acceptance of lowering the standards, wouldn't it? Yeah, good point.
Okay.